Studio's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, indeed, it is Good Morning Uganda coming to you right on this Wednesday, and of course the month of September. We're taking it slowly by slowly. It is the 14th of this very month, 2022, and it is midweek happiness. I cannot fail to say that we are halfway into the week, meaning that we have already progressed through, and we're trying to look at starting the second half of the week, of course, as we're trying to look at the weekend. My name is Philomena, and I am with the entire crew for Good Morning Uganda. I do have Mollen, Kenyena, I do have Uncle Bob here with me, plus Felix and NKUNDA on this Wednesday. I must say that it's quite a lot that is happening in Kenya, but at least I know it is for the best. A new era did officially kick in yesterday after the president-elect was finally sworn in, inaugurated into this position of power. Now he is President William Ruto, the fifth making it to that same position. Kenyans are still celebrating. He did give quite a moving speech. A lot of promises were made in that speech, and we would love to know, what do all these promises mean to an ordinary Kenyan? Well, that we are yet to find out. But first, good morning, Felix. We did miss you. I don't know where you've been.
Yeah,
we need accountability.
Probably I was somewhere in Kasarani.
Oh, Kasarani.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
Probably I was around the corridors of Kasarani somewhere in Kenya. But good morning to you, Philo, Bob, and Mollen. And of course to the Good Morning Uganda family there. But must say thank you so much. You guys, you did a good job in how you did give a follow-up on what was happening in Kenya. And we saw something that probably is not very much precedented.
Yes.
Most recent, we have seen the African countries realize that their strength lies within Africa majorly, and no wonder there are great turn-up at the swearing in of Ndugu Dr. Simeo William Ruto. Clearly, yesterday was a much promising, a day full of light, and we hope that this will be carried on even in the era of his term as president.
Yes.
You Kenyans seem to be very excited because of the hustler tag. They think that it's breaking of pedigree, where we see some sort of person who would never have thought to be sitting in this big house or big office for that matter.
Yes.
Finally there. They say it is hope for the people who are struggling. They say it is hope for the families that are struggling. They also say it is proof that you can come from nothing to definitely something. That's what symbolizes the presidency of His Excellency William Ruto. Congratulations again to the Kenyan brothers and sisters. We believe and trust that you are in safe hands. And again, under the stewardship of the East African community, integration is key on the lips of all of us, as the president of Uganda did re-echo again and again. But we wish you all the best, I must say, to them, Philo.
Well, you could say that it was only the Kenyans that were really excited, but even some of the people who were being sworn in were excited. And there was some, I could say maybe unexpected things that did happen. I did see Kenyans single out their deputy president after swearing in, and he held his certificate upside down. But I mean, he
did lots of mistakes, that guy. Yeah.
And the vows as well. But I mean, it's excitement, and I'm also pretty sure he was a bit overwhelmed. So we cannot blame the man. Good morning, Robert.
A lovely morning to you, Philo, the entire team, and above all, our lovely viewers. Thank you so much for waking up with us. Well, I was very excited when I heard these words, a village boy, now the president of Kenya, This is testimony of God's goodness. I like the fact that President William Ruto so much clings on God. And I hope that is seen throughout his leadership. But also, I enjoyed the promises he made to Kenyans. He seemed to understand their problems very well. When he says we shall reduce agricultural inputs and provide high-quality seeds at a very low price. So this means that the cost of production for a farmer will dramatically go down and he will make more profits. And issues of food, where Kenya has a huge number of the population suffering, that is something that he will handle. Then when he also talks about formalizing the informal sector, organizing them, making sure they can get credit in an organized manner, I think that is also a step in the right direction if well done. He talked also about the region when he talked about the outgoing president who will continue to chair all these peace initiatives that have been around, considering also the East African community, welcoming other new members. So I saw him as a man who knows the problems of the people and has solutions. Now the task ahead is implementation. But of course not forgetting the very interesting speech by the Deputy President there. The man was very excited. To some point, he kind of had, his speech was very interesting. When he kind of said, we forgive, we shall work with everybody. Then he mentioned how they found Kenya. I'm like, talking about the public debt, talking about the 6 million. The picture he painted of Kenya, I'm like, oh, okay. It's like you've picked it from nothing, query. But anyway, that is politics.
Well, there are a lot of changes he did come along. I'm pretty sure the three of you have heard of the prominent lawyer Miguna. Anytime he's going to be returning to Kenya after the President William Ruto did, uplift the ban on him. So anytime now, he's going to be getting back on that plane from Canada to Kenya. He's very excited. He had a lot to say on social media. I don't know whether Kenyans are happy about this or not, but at least we know that changes are already kicking in. Good morning, Mollen.
Yes, a very good morning to you, Philomena, and the team. And of course, still congratulations to Kenyans upon having their president sworn in. And of course, he did come with a lot of force when you talk about lawyers.
Yes.
He did say that he has approved the 6 judges that were on the waiting list. And today, actually, is when he will be getting them officially into those seats. It looks like he's actually very, very prominent when it comes to considering judiciary across Kenya. And that is the one thing that I think he has led with on his first day, to say that now we need that part of Kenyans to actually feel like they are being helped. But also what came in as a highlight for me was seeing most of the presidents across the East African community coming up, and he invited them to say a word or two, where we did see mostly also President Museveni right there talking about the politics of identity, and that there is a lot that could be taken from that. Obviously adding to that was the president of Tanzania also talking about the East African community working together. And I think one thing that Kenya is leading on is that democracy. We saw that handshake from President Uhuru and President Ruto, and you're like, yes, this is what we would be looking forward to across most of African nations. And to me, that was a highlight for sure.
Well, there is a lot that is yet to happen, but I think the most imperative thing right now is the sustainability of these promises. Will he keep up to them or not? Well, we do have 5 years for us to pass the judgment, and I can tell you the whole East African bloc is watching, the whole African continent is watching, and of course the international countries are all watching. But we wish the best of luck to this new era that did start yesterday of Kenyans under, of course, the leadership of President William Ruto. A lot has also been happening here right at home, in our faces, I could say, politically, socially, and economically. Well, we are yet to reveal all that in our stories that we did bring you today, both on the local and the international scene.
We'll begin with Kenya, and that is Museveni-Ruto inauguration, where President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni was among the 17 heads of state who attended William Ruto's inauguration ceremony in Nairobi, Kenya. Museveni, who was recognized by President Ruto as a personal friend and a mentor, made the remarks focusing on wealth creation. President Museveni was recognized by William Ruto as the top leader in the region who he looks up and holds with high regard. This was at President Ruto's inauguration ceremony in Nairobi. President Museveni, who was among the 17 heads of state in attendance, was invited to the podium to make remarks. Museveni, who was cheered by those in attendance, lauded Kenya for conducting a peaceful election and emphasized the need for regional collaboration for rapid social and economic development. Museveni's sentiments were re-echoed by President Samia Hassan Suluhu of the Republic of Tanzania and President Evariste Ndayishimiye of Burundi, the current chairman of the East African Community. At a time when the region is grappling numerous challenges, President Museveni highlighted several key areas with the potential to create wealth, not only for Kenyans, but the region at large, and need critical attention by Kenya's new administration under President Ruto.
Well, of course, also looking at the anti-corruption court in Uganda, where we see 3 tropical bankers and 2 lawyers and a businessman have been charged and remanded with 4 counts of abuse of office, causing financial loss over 2 billion to the bank. The same court did charge Innocent Opio, an officer at the Ministry of Internal Affairs, for issuing diplomatic notes to non-government officials to enable them acquire visas from the American embassy between the month of July and the month of August. Now, Tropical Bank Uganda is alleged to have lost over 2 billion Ugandan shillings through illegal procedures and payments processes made by the bankers, and the anti-corruption court in Kololo before the magistrate, Joan Ashiro, has charged and remanded the bankers who are now suspected to be behind the scandal to Luzira prison.
And now we go to Parliament, where Uganda Airlines boss Jennifer Bamutaraki has asked for more time to present a written submission responding to claims that she received 50 million shillings per diem for travel allowance, but did not utilize the funds, neither did she return the money. Bamutaraki and other officials from Uganda Airlines appeared at the Parliamentary Committee on Commissions, Statutory Authorities and Enterprises to further provide information leading to investigations into the Auditor General's report of financial year 2020-2021. Available information shows that in March 2019, the Uganda Airlines signed a DPOL document filled and stamped by Uganda Registrar Bureau. Jennifer Mutilaki denounced her childhood name, alias Musime Bamu Turaki Jennifer, and adopted Jennifer Arnold Lenakia, but has continued to use the childhood name in her current documents. On her return to Parliament, Accounts Committee, Commission, Statutory Authorities, Bamutaraki was tasked to explain the mismatch within a fortnight. The committee, chaired by Nakawa West Member of Parliament, General Nyonyintono, continues to investigate queries contained in the Auditor General's report of the financial year, questioning losses over 200 billion captured at the national carrier. Now,
the Health Committee on Parliament has pledged to push for the increase in the funds allocated to family planning commodities. Now, availability of family planning commodities has been listed in the National Development Plan 3 as a key for human capital development. 2016 Demographic Health Survey shows the unmet need for family planning at least 28%, implying that some women who would wish to delay childbearing have no access to modern contraceptives. Now, members of the Health Committee of the Parliament are advocating for an increase on funds allocated for family planning commodities. Religious institutions are also advocating for family planning, and the Executive Chairperson, Faith Family Health Initiative, Jackie Katana, does emphasize that planned families contribute to the country's economic development.
Now, making a follow-up on the arrangements of the final funeral of the late Queen Elizabeth II, Prince William and Prince Harry will walk together behind the Queen's coffin in a procession in London today. The brothers, along with the King, will follow the coffin on foot from Buckingham Palace to Westminster Hall, where the Queen will lie instead. The procession will leave the palace at 14:22 and is expected to arrive at Westminster Hall at 15:00. A service lasting about 20 minutes will then be led by the Archbishop of Canterbury. The King's three siblings, Princess Anne, Prince Andrew and Prince Edward, will also walk in the procession. Camilla, the Queen Consort, and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, will travel by car, as will Sophie, the Countess of Wessex, and Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. It comes after Prince William and Prince Harry, accompanied by their wives, appeared in front of crowds gathered outside Windsor Castle on Saturday. The group arrived in the same car and spent around 40 minutes greeting mourners and looking at flowers left for their grandmother. It was the first time the brothers had been seen alongside one another in public since the funeral of their grandfather, the Duke of Edinburgh, in April last year. Both were at a service of Thanksgiving in St. Paul's Cathedral during the Platinum Jubilee celebrations in June, but sat on opposite sides of the cathedral. Crossing over to China, its leader Xi Jinping and Russia's Vladimir Putin will discuss the war in Ukraine and other international and regional topics at their meeting later this week, the Kremlin says. The two will meet in Uzbekistan at a summit that will show an alternative to the Western world, according to the Kremlin. Mr. Xi is making his first trip overseas since the beginning of the pandemic. He is seeking a historic third term, while Mr. Putin's relations with the West are at rock bottom over Ukraine. Mr. Xi is beginning his three-day trip in Kazakhstan on Wednesday. He will then meet Mr. Putin on Thursday at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Samarkand, which will run from 15th to the 16th of September. Mr. Putin will also meet other leaders, including those of India, Pakistan, Turkey and Iran, but his meeting with China's leader is of particular importance, said Kremlin Foreign Policy spokesman Yuri Ushakov. He said the summit was taking place against the background of large-scale political changes. China and Russia have long sought to position the SCO, founded in 2001 with 4 ex-Soviet Central Asian nations, as an alternative to Western multilateral groups. Mr. Xi's visit comes amid a fresh set of lockdowns in China, where his zero-COVID policy is still in place. While the rest of the world has opened up, learning to live with the virus, Beijing continues to shut down entire cities and provinces every time there is a spot in cases.
And crossing over to Kenya, tens of thousands of people cheered as William Ruto was sworn in as Kenya's president at a ceremony in the capital, Nairobi, following his narrow election win last month. Mr. Ruto hailed it as a moment like no other, adding that a village boy had become president. Now, defeated candidate Raila Odinga did not attend, saying serious concerns he has about his opponent's victory. Mr. Ruto won the election with 50.5% of the vote to Mr. Odinga's 48.8%. Now, Mr. Odinga has alleged that the result was rigged, but Supreme Court has ruled the election was free and fair. Mr. Ruto, the former deputy president, was handed a copy of Kenya's constitution and a sword to represent the transfer of power from President Uhuru Kenyatta. With his hand on a Bible, the 55-year-old swore to preserve and protect the Constitution. Now, standing here today is a testimony that there is God in heaven. I want to thank God because a village boy has become president of Kenya, Mr. Ruto said, referring to the fact that he grew up in rural Kenya. Now, he also had a conciliatory word for Mr. Odinga and all his opponents. Now, their supporters will be my constituents. I will work with Kenyans irrespective of who they voted, Ruto said. There was also a handshake between the outgoing Mr. Kenyatta and Mr. Ruto, his former deputy, with whom he fell out during their second term in office. Away from that, the impacts of climate change are heading into uncharted territories of destruction, says the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, warning on Tuesday. Now, that was on a release of a multi-agency scientific report reviewing the latest research on the subject of climate change. The report, led by the World Meteorological Organization, warns that the world is going into the wrong direction on climate change, with greenhouse gas concentrations continuing to rise in the atmosphere and world leaders failing to adopt strategies to hold global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial temperatures. The Earth is inching closer to dangerous climate tipping points, the United in Science report says. Already, extreme weather events are more frequent and more intense. Heat waves in Europe, corrosive floods in Pakistan. There is nothing natural about the new scale of these disasters, Guterres says in a video message. Despite a dip in emissions during the coronavirus lockdowns, planet warming emissions have since soared beyond pre-pandemic levels, and preliminary data reveals that the global carbon dioxide emissions in the first half of this year were 1.2% higher than during the same period in 2019, as the report finds.
Well, while we are still looking at what is bound to happen today, our very own parliamentarians are expected to pay tribute to the late Queen of England, that is Queen Elizabeth II, much later on today. And during his communication, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Thomas Taiwa, did actually ask these parliamentarians, to go on and emulate the long servanthood of Queen Elizabeth. And this threw quite a number of Ugandans in some sort of chaotic situation.
Like, what exactly does he want them to emulate? Being
exactly, they were saying that the Queen served this long, but there was there was solid proof that she had to serve this long, and there was accountability
she was
for all.
voted, or she was good.
But I think there's a difference away
Yes.
from excitement sometimes. When you have a monarchy and then you have a democracy, those are two different
Yes.
different systems that are working. It's like looking at the Kabaka of Uganda and saying the man has celebrated many years on his throne. You can't compare that to a politically elected person. But even that said, do you know in UK, just like their media sometimes
In
tries
Uganda,
to cover up
you
certain
may
things,
call-
even in the UK, do you know there are people who were arrested
Yes.
recently because they were protesting the
Yes.
monarchy leadership?
But you guys-
Just that some of these don't make it to the headlines. There were
It was
people that
actually
were
in the
arrested.
news.
They had
It was all over the
placards
news,
and they were
indeed.
protesting having another leader installed, and they were arrested with their placard, just like we do it here in Uganda when you go to. But you see some of these things, because they are saying, no, we can't continue in such a way, being led by a person who has no mandate of the people. So I think
I'll tell you one thing, elected in power or not, Queen Elizabeth has actually had the biggest achievement across the UK. Even when you look at the fact that she has been working with the prime ministers, you see that all of her achievements have been actually just, systems that originate from the monarchy, from her loyalty. And I think that is too much to say than actually the leaders that are elected into power. You look at the fact that she was able to extend from
Yes.
just the UK and have all these Commonwealth countries, from the nations that have been part of the Commonwealth. That is the initiative from the Queen. So I do think
Mollen,
that
are you
their
trying to
monarchy-
say our MPs they've not proven themselves worthy of these positions?
Well, they have actually,
All of
but
them?
my
They leave
comparison
alone
is,
one
my
time.
comparison is,
Even help you say that.
the monarchy has actually achieved a lot more than the people that we actually think. But haven't you seen how even sometimes we make mistakes in getting people into parliament? We vote almost everyone. Comedians are in parliament. You look at the fact that we just take everyone there. But these guys have had a system where loyalty, I will tell you one thing, King Charles III right now,
Yes.
with his experience on how UK has been moving with monarchy, I know he's going to make a better king. Other than, getting a comedian from somewhere and then you put them in such a place. I'll tell you that.
Felix begs to differ. I am pretty sure.
And I'm just saying, you see, it depends on where you're standing to make such an allegation or such a statement. There have been a couple of outcries from the people of various islands. For example, I've been keen to read through some of the commentaries that came from Jamaica.
Yes.
And they're not good at all about the death.
They've
of
had
the
quite
Queen.
a rocky relationship.
I can tell you,
yes.
when you come, even till you get to Africa, Western Africa, if you try to look at some of the sentiments, I
Oh,
read
yes.
about the is it EAF, the Malema party? They had a very, very
that man
terrible-
is a problem.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say is that it simply depends on where you're standing to make such a formal, concrete assertion about the demise. Nevertheless, There are very many things we appreciate of the Great Britain, as a matter of fact, but there are very many things that probably would have been done better, again, by the Great Britain against the people that they so-called to be colonized. So those sentiments are quite fresh in people's minds. There are people who lost family, like so many things. Anyway,
Yes.
you know what all
I
these
mean, we would
things
have this conversation for about a whole week,
Again and again,
and
I'm
we
telling
wouldn't
you.
exhaust
Yeah.
it. But at least I know what we can exhaust for today is the communication that Robert over here has to say to you in regards, of course, to your health. And hallelujah.
Well, there's a lady putting on green, the weather lady, nature as well, and I want her to begin with that green bottle that matches what she's very passionate about.
Well, this is Hallelujah Jinga tea drink, and of course this one is my favorite and Robert's favorite, I know for sure. It has the jinga part of it, and it keeps, if you want to lose weight a little bit and keep in shape, this is one product that you can actually go for. Yeah, and
I know
Felix,
why
I'll just
is kept in shape now.
Yes, yes. This is the one drink that can actually keep you healthy at the same time. You get benefits like that, keeping
share
yourself
that with
in shape.
Robert.
Yeah, and I think Robert will also have to start taking
I'm
some
just
of these
saying.
products for sure. Yes.
Felix is far away, but I've seen him. He wants to say a word regarding one of these bottles, but well, that will be for another day. Now I have Hallelujah banana juice. This is very sweet, and I'll give this to Felix because over a time he tells me like so movies. This one they make with the feet and something similar to a boat. Uganda, but this
Yeah,
is
yeah, I love it. That's true.
yes. So some of that is contained here, but also there is morondo, which also Felix likes so much. A number of men love morondo, and above all, it boosts your immune system. Now we come to Hallelujah tamarind drink. Now what this does for people who like drinking, it's sometimes you have these hangovers, you have a lot of commitments, then this does you very well. And above all these drinks boost your immune system. They are not medicines, but they are immune boosters. So at just 1,500, get yourself a bottle. You will thank me later. I can accept a goat, a coke, and some money, because I know you'll make great savings, because you'll be healthy.
Well, Wednesday is for the ladies. We crush on all the great women doing wonderful things. Those that we recognize, those we cannot recognize, but you're doing quite some wonderful things out there. We celebrate you. And because of that, for our inspiration song, we're giving you one great song from one great woman. When we get back, we'll be talking about the flood situation on our roads that has become very rampant in the last couple of days because of all these torrential rains that we are experiencing as a country. Good morning, Uganda will return shortly after this.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
As we're trying to look at the weekend. My name is Philomena Mastiko, and I am with the entire crew for Good Morning Uganda. I do have Mollen, Kenyena, I do have Uncle Bob here with me, plus Felix and NKUNDA on this Wednesday. I must say that it's quite a lot that is happening in Kenya, but at least I know it is for the best. A new era did officially kick in yesterday after the president-elect was finally sworn in, inaugurated into this position of power. Now he is President William Ruto, the fifth, making it to that same position. Kenyans are still celebrating. He did give quite a moving speech. A lot of promises were made in that speech, and we would love to know, what do all these promises mean to an ordinary Kenyan? Well, that we are yet to find out. But first, good morning, Felix. We did miss you. I don't know where you've been.
Yeah,
we need accountability.
Probably I was somewhere in Kasarani.
Oh, Kasarani.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
Probably I was around the corridors of Kasarani somewhere in Kenya. But good morning to you, Philo, Bob, and Mollen. And of course to the Good Morning Uganda family there. But must say thank you so much. You guys, you did a good job in how you did give a follow-up on what was happening in Kenya. And we saw something that probably is not very much precedented.
Yes.
Most recent, we have seen the African countries realize that their strength lies within Africa majorly, and no wonder there are great turn-up at the swearing in of Ndugu Dr. Simeo William Ruto. Clearly, yesterday was a much promising, a day full of light, and we hope that this will be carried on even in the era of his term as president.
Yes.
You Kenyans seem to be very excited because of the hustler tag. They think that it's breaking of pedigree, where we see some sort of person who would never have thought to be sitting in this big house or big office for that matter.
Yes.
Finally there. They say it is hope for the people who are struggling. They say it is hope for the families that are struggling. They also say it is proof that you can come from nothing to definitely something. That's what symbolizes the presidency of His Excellency William Ruto. Congratulations again to the Kenyan brothers and sisters. We believe and trust that you are in safe hands. And again, under the stewardship of the East African community, integration is key on the lips of all of us, as the president of Uganda did re-echo again and again. But we wish you all the best, I must say, to them, Philo.
Well, you could say that it was only the Kenyans that were really excited, but even some of the people who were being sworn in were excited. And there was some, I could say maybe unexpected things that did happen. I did see Kenyans single out their deputy president after...
There to hold everybody accountable.
Every Wednesday at 10 p.m.
First of all, we as elites of Uganda, we have made Museveni the issue. I can tell Museveni is not the problem of Uganda. The problems of Uganda are much deeper. We can change the next 20 presidents and we'll still do this roundabout.
Was brought to you by
Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN cupboard. That's super easy.
Forget last season. Forget the oohs and the ahs. Forget every moment that stole the show. Because the real show is here on GoTV. It's the new season. It's action-packed and it's going to be non-stop football. With over 1,000 games from more than 7 leagues and cup competitions plus a World Cup. Make sure you get the best seat in the house this new football season. Get a GoCoder with 1 month of GoTV value for only 25,000 Uganda shillings and enjoy non-stop football. GoTV Uganda. Love it.
Ooh, they look nice.
Thank you, honey.
You guys gather, it's going down. Gather! Gather!
Yo! I tell you what.
Airtel is giving you bigger data bundles for the same price. Dial star 175 hash to choose from our range of bigger Chillax bundles that don't expire. Bigger monthly bundles, all for the same price. And stay connected longer to loved ones. Airtel, the smartphone network.
a logical, deeper conversation.
How many teachers in Uganda did you consult? But there's a mistake we are making. Which is good.
Which is good.
Which is good.
Which is good.
We went to this school, we ran it Western, we ran it Northern, then you come. Isn't that an achievement?
Objective and non-partisan.
Honorable Minister, there were a number of points. I want to start with you.
Straight from the hearts of open-minded men and women.
Money tends to move faster at night. So when people are not counting,
don't take it for granted.
Candid and authentic.
Because Uganda is not Thailand.
That's not correct, and we should stop that kind of mentality.
So what I'm saying
is a trick question. Don't answer.
I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that.
Tell him you speak low.
I think that's where we are beginning to have a problem.
I think what is going to kill the parish model are all the misconceptions on how it's supposed to run.
I know that the Prime Minister is listening.
Behind the headlines.
Charles, let us agree. We liberalize the economy.
We are several nations put it together.
Why don't you appreciate that?
What if it fails?
I'm happy
And
to
he's
answer.
a good lawyer because Amin is not in power. The parish development committee is functional. It is there. That there is a parish chief that the beneficiaries do exist.
So we look at expenditure. We don't look at revenue. And that is the challenge we are giving them from Minister of Finance.
Your fountain of new knowledge, flowing into the mass body of knowledge.
First get the knowledge of Bukedia, how they want to be modernized.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
You return money to the treasury, which is meant for the people.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Stay connected on the largest 4G network in Uganda using the Airtel 4G Pocket MiFi at only 75,000 Uganda shillings. It comes with 15 GBs free, valid for a month. You can connect up to 10 of your friends and family at a go. Visit the nearest Airtel shop to get one today or call 0800 333 330 for free delivery within Kampala. Dial *175 *9# to activate free 15 GBs. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Newsreel on this Wednesday, where we get to talk about what's happening in the realm of news here in Uganda from all sectors. Our everyday issues, things that people have quite a lot to say but probably haven't been given the opportunity. Well, Good Morning Uganda is definitely here to make sure that we get into them, we dissect them. And when I mean Good Morning Uganda team, of course, I'm talking about myself, Robert here, and Felix NKUNDA. Well, this very specific morning, our discussions are going to take the direction of floods that have been quite rampant on most of our Ugandan roads here in Kampala, the central business district. Now, for the last couple of days, we have been experiencing quite a lot, rather lots of rains every other day. I mean, we have got all these warnings from Mollen herself here every other day. She keeps telling us how to be expecting rains much later on in the day. So the rains have been torrential, I must say. And when they are torrential, definitely there is an impact they'll be causing. And the floods are one of the things we are facing, especially in our roads, unfortunately. But when you look at these floods, they're not, I can't say they are minor floods, because right now, according to reports coming in, we have started losing quite a number of people. There's been a lot of damage when it comes to property, you know, to mention but a few. On Saturday, we did see a story where a man, a border man, actually, you know, he disappeared because of the floods that had really taken part of this very specific road. And the other day, KCCA actually also came out to map out some of the roads that maybe right now Ugandan road users should be avoiding, especially when the rains are heavy. But even aside that, we know that most of the roads, as you're getting into the city center, we already see quite a lot of heavy floods, and it's scary, okay? Now, very many questions are flying from one corner to another by ordinary Ugandans, by experts, you know, by concerned people, and they're wondering what is happening, why is this happening, or why does it happen every other time? Because every time we experience such heavy rains, this is one of the greatest worry. We know that the traffic is quite immense. We know that there is a lot of fuel that is burned. There is a lot of money lost during traffic. So, you know, it's a whole cycle. But maybe just to hear from you, Robert, we would really love to know, why does this happen consistently? And where do we shift the blame? Because there must be somebody definitely who is apparently not doing their job, or if they're doing it, they're not doing it the right way. Because I don't think the roads should be this way. The situation should be this way. We shouldn't be in such a state of worry every time it rains. You start questioning, I have to dodge this road, I have to use the other road. People shouldn't be worried about their property being lost because of this flood. So, who is to blame?
Well, first, Kampala happens to be in a valley. Because I remember when we were studying, I don't know what time you are in school, or my brother Felix here, but we were told that Kampala is a city of 7 hills. 7? 7.
Yes.
By then.
Clearly, we are different.
Yes, by then. That's why I asked.
Yeah.
So, 7 hills, but it happens to be in the valley.
Yes.
Of course, now there are places that have added on development, where previously these were kind of forests. You would look, now we have new places, Nigeria coming in, but previously you could count the 7 hills.
Yes.
Now, that is no excuse that it's in a valley, because we even know of cities that are almost in the water or something like that, and they don't flood to this extent. First, I want to begin by looking at human activity. The individual people, me, you, and everybody who comes in Kampala or who stays in Kampala. In Uganda, first we have a very poor behavior or habit of disposing of rubbish or garbage. That is why one time we hosted somebody and he made a word, he quoted what we call floods. He said this is temporary stagnation of water. When you pass Mukwano, you know where there is this kind of drainage channel where we saw the border man, that is Julius Baguma, that is believed to have taken him when he was driving through there. After the rain has stopped, in about 4 hours, you won't see this water there. You know, the road is seemingly clear, but you see so much plastic bottles, what and all that. So first, how we manage our garbage becomes a problem. There are many people that will use the opportunity when they see rain, bring sacks. Some offices, you know, in Uganda you can find even a VIP by virtue of status, but behavior and acts, you'll be disappointed. I don't know if you've been on the road and you see this wonderful car, very expensive car, and the occupant, then you see them throwing plastic bottles.
Or they do that comfortably. They dispose of these plastic bottles outside when they're in motion, when they're in traffic. Yes. I mean, they don't have any...
But a person who, how? Maybe you would think it would be someone to do that. But these people, you think they are well behaved. So how we dispose of our garbage, our rubbish, is a problem. How we use these plastic bottles, that is also a problem. I wanted to bring that first, to know that everybody, we have a responsibility before you look at authorities. Then now, that is coupled by KCCA having poor drainage system. There are some bridges we've heard of, there are some trenches we've heard of, and we know, and KCCA will tell you, this is the problem, that whenever it rains, if we work on this channel, then it would reduce the impact of the flooding we see. So drainage is poor in Kampala. That is a fact. That water looks for where to go, and they have not properly demarcated channels that can lead this running water to a safer destination. For example, there are places we know that for them, whenever it rains, what do you have to do? If this running water from these directions had proper flows, that's why I told there are cities, but it's how you organize the water. Then also we have now infrastructure that is coming up, and it's not properly planned. Not properly planned. You find, I want our viewers to understand, Osango Mwana, you know, this is a drainage, and you ask, even some of these big buildings we call arcades, they don't tell you, but under. I remember one time National Water was so pissed and they began operations. And they were shocked to discover that a number of these arcades are not using water from National Water. There is a room they dug and reached the water table. And now they found a oversupplying water. But they are disorganizing flow of water. So they would wonder, how can such an arcade have a water bill as low as this?
People always have a plan B.
Only to identify that these guys are disorganized the water table in the city and drilled and got into the water to know, so the building is using its own water. And a number of buildings, about 8, 7, 10, were discovered doing this. So where you have planning that does not factor in water, we look at as your plan being approved. Where I have structures that are obstacles, because water will always find its way. Water will find its way. When you block it, then you'll harvest what we are seeing today. And the bad thing is no one is safe. Philo, today we are seeing border people. We are seeing these vendors that run into these channels. But even many people, every time it rains, cough so big repairing their vehicles.
Yes.
Because one expert in driving was telling me that when it is raining, please do not continue accelerating to pass through this water. Stop, the car will not be moved. But you see, your car is soaked within this water. At the end of the day, you're coughing on huge costs of repair. Or you're going to end up spending so much to buy a car that can move in Kampala. With these four-wheel drives, you're spending, still it has an impact on your budget. It has an impact on the fuel you're consuming. It has an impact on your time. Sometimes you don't calculate time. So everyone gets affected at what is happening in Kampala, but human activity, our behavior, and the authorities failing to implement proper guidelines, factoring in issues of water and having proper drainage systems, that when such incidents happen, we do not have these inconveniences because water is properly planned, how it's going to move to safer zones, to Rubiji, to these papyrusses that we have around. I think that is where we're having a problem as dwellers in Kampala.
Okay, I love the fact that you've rolled out some of these reasons. The blame is actually portioned to different stakeholders. We as the Ugandans, but we also have the authorities. And this is where I want to focus. Definitely when we're talking about authorities, we know that they're going to deal with the technical bit of this problem, okay? Robert over here talked about the drainage system, the planning, all these things. I mean, this is not for an ordinary Ugandan to execute. These are not their responsibilities. They can only help. Now, Felix, I want us to talk about the technical people, the authorities, and of course, right here, I'm talking about KCCA, which has quite the biggest role to play in this whole thing. Because we have seen at one point they did come out to actually agree to the fact that they could have blundered, they could have made mistakes when it came to planning. But when you look at all this, because at the end of the day, the impacts here are quite long term due to their failure to plan accordingly or effectively. Do we say this is a case of incompetence? Is this a case of unprofessionalism? Are they just complacent, or do they actually not know what to do? Or maybe they don't have the facilities to make sure that, you know, they enable the funds that will enable them to facilitate the whole running of all these projects and the planning. Why is this happening? Why is KCCA even quite confident enough to come out and tell us, listen, we could have made a mistake when it comes to planning? What enables that? What's happening?
I like how you asked me all these whys, and I wish I had the Z's to them. Yes. But honestly, I may share my opinion or insight in relation to what we've been seeing all together, by the way, as people who use Kampala, the capital, or work here, live here. Some of us have grown on these streets, and these are some of the challenges we have consistently seen. And one of the things that we must agree about is that in as much as there's a lot of circumstantial contribution to the floods, the major or the primary contributor to the existence of floods in this city is the authority itself. And its contribution could be vividly seen through either omission, but later on could be causations. How? Robert did talk about a couple of things they do that aid the existence of floods. And one of them, if you wanted, as you asked me, what are they not doing, right? Like, one is what they call a physical plan. And the authority itself has a physical planning department that I have time and again interacted with on different occasions. But one thing that leaves to be noticed is the power of corruption versus the power of order. And that's a challenge for us as a country. It has cut across, it has chosen to cut across all sectors. That we have a great competition between what is and what would be or what ought to be. There's a competition between corruption and the right thing.
Yes.
In as much as, Philo, you know what should be done, but there's this thing called corruption telling you dare do the
really
right
sad.
thing. That's the truth of the matter.
Very sad.
If you go in this beautiful city of ours. And that's why I've always had very big issues with Bob here, who's always defending the authority in terms of decongesting the city. The real decongestion should do with the physical planning. You understand?
Yes, it starts from that point.
It's inward out, in outward, not out inward. You know? So KCCA needs to, one, revise the physical planning order of the city. Do we need all these buildings?
Approving one after another.
It's not about even wanting, because there are two things we are fighting with: want and need.
Yes.
Do we need these buildings? For you to understand the question, do we need? You must do physical, what we call physical planning, feasibility assessment, but not for the now, later on, for a time period, but taking into account what your city can take. The reason why you see all these poor disposal, because you are clogging a city with numbers it cannot take in terms of arrangement. The cars in Kampala are probably like 5 times the cars that should be in Kampala. The borders, and so are the population. Now, once you have an outburst, it is us who are putting pressure on the city, not the reverse. In fact, we must bless God that we have not lost a great number of people in these floods. Because, and one people say that Africans normally live by God. That is the truth of the matter. With the kind of pressure we have put on Kampala as a metropolitan,
yes,
we could be losing more than 10 people every time it rains. But we thank God that we are not that in that depth of darkness. Because if, like in just this month, do you know how many arcades have been built?
Oh my.
You know, every other day you move to town, there is something that is cropping up, and you're wondering how is this happening?
We must revisit the discussion of need versus want.
Yes.
Later on, influenced by corruption and tips. Now, the power of need has been beaten by far because of the power of corruption. That people will never look at the need as long as there is something to earn for them own selves. Now, that's why we don't have a thorough plan. Let me say this. KCCA, and I'm sorry we are talking about KCCA because it's the only one to talk about in terms of Kampala.
Yes.
I wish we were talking about, I wish we had something else.
This is
we apologize in case they get offended.
I feel offended.
Yeah, but there's only KCCA to talk about.
But this is the portion. These are their responsibilities.
That's why I'm saying I wish we had someone else to talk about.
So you want to apportion blame to those that shouldn't?
So, when you talk about disposal, what is the contribution? What is the plan? The disposal mannerism in this country, and I want us to take just a study. Give me a stretch of a street that is just 1 kilometer, and how many disposal channels it has.
Kessi has said when they put them there, your ill-mannered Ugandans come and steal these bins we hear. They
that
take
is
them.
it. You see, if they steal our number plates also, but we always go back to URI and we pay money to government. You know? Me, they stole one of my carpets at CPS. So the irony. That halabalu and junksy, jinky, picky, pokey games of those are village and primitive for them to say they steal. So if they steal, what do we do? Find a solution. Find a solution.
Get those that had to steal.
We need to work on disposal.
Yes.
Let me tell you, garbage disposal in this country is so terrible. It is surprising that up till today, we still take garbage to Chitezi. In this 21st century, every country is recycling garbage. In fact, people are earning from garbage.
And they have created awareness for it. They have encouraged their nationals to adapt.
For example, and countries have stopped using polythene. Why you? You as an authority, we always see the
But
mayor.
they created a ban some time back on this Kavera.
Well,
there are two things.
The Felixes became a problem.
How?
Now,
How did they become very problematic?
You see, two things that are leading us back. Sometimes the laws, that is the advocate people, and these guys of human rights, then money issues. When government banned Kavera of 20 microns, of 30 microns and below, this is what happened. Those in that industry got good lawyers like my colleague here. They went before Parliament, they presented, they argued, they went in courts, we are still there.
It's still pending.
I believe what my brother is saying, and that can't be blamed on advocacy. They are simply doing their job. I wouldn't blame the colleagues.
Yes.
But the truth of the matter is that we have failed to find a standard of where we want our country to be. Let's just agree on that. We have failed, and that is crosses on every other sector. When you go to, we have failed. Other countries have done it in terms of how do you manage waste. For example, products that are being put in plastics, what is the contribution of those companies towards, because this that you talk about flooding is not going to go into ecology, environment, climate, all these, the effects are ripple. So we need to have a standard on how we deal with some things. But our dear country, beautiful as it is, by the way, has failed to have that discussion because they fear to lose those small things. Again, for me, the institutions in charge of cities must agree to have a discussion to differ from wanting some things and rather discuss the need. This city is overwhelmed. The city that hosts over 5 million people during day. Look at the city.
Felix, I love the fact that you actually talk about how quite we are heavily congested here in Kampala. Government did create other districts, okay? Rather other cities,
yes.
Aside from Kampala. And I thought the cardinal reason for this was to decongest, Kampala. But also it's quite very sad and unfortunate that most of all these local governments, their head offices are in Kampala, okay? Some of these, if not all ministries, by the way, I mean, their head offices are in Kampala.
And they are in the suburbs of Kampala.
Kampala, yes. My issue here would be that maybe we spread out the ministries to some of these, cities, the new cities, because every Ugandan's mentality right now, they think that they will thrive if only they're in Kampala.
It's actually world over, by the way. You just have to manage it.
Yes. If you don't come to Kampala, you're not going to thrive as a Ugandan, according to the mentality.
Even the Bible talks about the blessing in the city. So
some will tell you the farther you are from the central bank, then the less opportunities of getting money. But
can you imagine?
How does that even work?
But I think the biggest mistake we made, government did not create.
Yes.
Government lifted these areas to a city status. Through paper.
There's nothing that changed.
And through work. I remember I have a friend in Masaka. He told me, what state status. I said, okay. And they were rejoicing, I do. They were very excited. Masaka now it has become a city. One, if funding was not increased, these cities recently were before Parliament crying out loud.
Yes.
That excuse us. You gave us the status. We don't have even money to run.
They wanted to return the status.
Almost they wanted
we don't want it because it's not facilitated. We don't have the funds to run it on a status level.
Why were
on a
we
city
excited?
status level, yes.
Someone told me after some months that I told them, what did you expect? Did you expect the moon to fall? So funding became a problem too. Services. You see, what did government, after giving these particular areas, status, the status, did we see them transfer any kind of services? Tanzania one time said, we've had this city for a long time. Now, let's move services deliberately. Let's move everything and create another city. Not giving status a particular part, but create. Nigeria did the same. They said we can no longer have, it was deliberate by government. For us, what we are seeing here is areas increasing in number and development, increasing in population and development, then we are like, now you deserve a city status. We don't have deliberate efforts to say, this is a particular area, let's make it have that status as government. If arcades crop up, everyone builds an arcade, we say a few industries have gone there, then we say now you're fit to be a city. This should be deliberate. Even in the budget, you say now this is our target, we must have these roads, we must create, like what you're seeing in Hoima, where we are seeing oil now.
Yes.
You see how they have constructed roads, they are building modern schools. That is how you shift. It is not by saying politically driven, we want a city. You eat rats, you do that, and then it's okay. As I also asking. That doesn't work out that way. It is planned, deliberate, not by mouth and pen and approval by parliament, and then you think you're going to see that transformation.
Well, as we close up, Felix.
Well, for me, Philo and Robert, and probably our viewers out there, I think one of the things I cannot get off here without saying is that in this kind of situation where it seems like the solution is far from the heads and lips of the leaders of these particular authorities, the solutions must come from our own hearts as communities. Let us watch how we dispose rubbish. It's a common practice for our societies to have worst mannerisms in terms of disposal. But the reason is because they have no alternative. Yeah. Most of them. The charge on rubbish collection in this country, even in one of my offices in Kampala where I only dispose 2 papers a month, yes. I'm paying 20,000 shillings. And then these guys of Navugaba up, they'll tell me that that is meant to keep Kampala clean. I don't know. But that's for them to deal with. But please, as my parting shots, when it rains, avoid movement. For you, our dear schools, please and please don't release our children when it has rained heavily. I have seen pictures and I've seen physically children walking on streets in heavy rains at 4 p.m. It's not right. We don't want to lose our children or any other person for deaths that are actually avoidable. I think let's just try to be proactive amidst the solutions that the institutions of government are promising to work around with.
Well, we can only take preventative measures, and again, water will always find its way. It doesn't matter the time or even the size of developments that you come up with. For as long as you put up developments in the wrong places, you know, if you fail at disposing of your rubbish in the right way, the effects are always there, short term, long term, and they always have quite a very heavy implication on the population. And again, we ask you to be very careful right now. We have not yet come to a conclusive solution, but at least we can try as much to avoid it. So every time you see these heavy rains, don't feel like you're bigger than the weather, or all.
Don't try to be Superman.
Don't try to be a Superman. Please stay where it's a bit safe until you have quite a clear road for you to use as a pedestrian, as a cyclist, and as a motorist. That's it from our very morning's discussion, where we did talk about all these floods on our Ugandan roads. We'll be back with the big stories in our dailies. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Stay connected on the largest 4G network in Uganda using the Airtel 4G Pocket MiFi at only 75,000 Uganda shillings. It comes with 15 GBs free, valid for a month. You can connect up to 10 of your friends and family at a go. Visit the nearest Airtel shop to get one today or call 0800 333 330 for free delivery within Kampala. Dial *175 *9# to activate free 15 GBs. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Forget last season. Forget the oohs and ahs. Forget every moment that stole the show, because the real show is here on GoTV. It's the new season. It's action-packed, and it's going to be non-stop football. With over 1,000 games from more than 7 leagues and cup competitions, plus a World Cup. Make sure you get the best seat in the house this new football season. Get a GoCoder with 1 month of GoTV value for only 25,000 Uganda shillings and enjoy non-stop football. GoTV Uganda. Love it.
logical, deeper conversation.
How many teachers in Uganda did you consult? But there's a mistake we are making.
Which is good.
Which is good.
Which is good.
Which is good.
We went to this school, we ran to Western, we ran to Northern, then you come.
Isn't that an achievement?
Objective and non-partisan.
Honorable Minister, there were a number of points. I want to start with you.
Straight from the hearts of open-minded men and women.
Money tends to move faster at night. So when people are not counting,
don't take it for granted.
Candid and authentic.
Because Uganda is not Thailand.
That's not correct, and we should stop that kind of mentality.
So what I'm saying
that's
is
a trick question. Don't answer.
I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that.
Tell him you speak Luo.
I think that's where we are beginning to have a problem.
I think what is going to kill the parish model are all the misconceptions on how it's supposed to run.
I know that the Prime Minister is listening.
Behind the headlines.
Charles, let us agree. We liberalized the economy.
We are several nations put it together.
Why don't you appreciate that?
What if it fails?
I'm happy
and
to
he's
answer.
a good lawyer because Amin is not in power. The parish development committee is functional. It is there. That there is a parish chief that the beneficiaries do exist.
So we look at expenditure. We don't look at revenue.
which is meant for the people.
UBC. Inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
The press review starts right about now with the Daily Monitor. Big story. We're looking at thousands of teachers go months without pay. Now, this is actually a cry for help where the affected teachers who last received their salaries, that was back in June, say that they are unable to cater for their families and have asked the government to come in to expedite the process of clearing their arrears. Now, the Ministry of Public Service attributes the delays to glitches in implementing the new salary structure. Change of guard, Ruto pledges to work for all Kenyans, and the picture over there showing outgoing Kenya President Uhuru Kenyatta and President William Ruto, who was lifting a sword at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani in Nairobi, in Kenya yesterday during his inauguration ceremony. I have no problem with Speaker Among, says Tayebwa. Now, government to conduct census next year. Oh, wow. I don't remember the last time the census was conducted. I don't even remember how old I was, but I remember there was a census. Now I'll be available to give information where necessary. Schools speak UNEB exam material and Museveni blocks EC relocation. Well, onto the second page of the Daily Monitor, taking you back in history. Obote tasks countries on Zimbabwe, and the USSR expels 25 in tit-for-tat spiral. The year was 1985. Get yourself the Daily Monitor to read more about these historical currencies.
Well, crossing over to the new vision for this morning in the section of governments, finance names best performing government entities. Well, find out which ones. Details are on page 3 of the new vision. But also in a big headline right there, tasks ahead for President Ruto, inauguration as the 5th Kenyan president. Now, details are on page 6 and 7. They also give you a picture right there of President Yoweri Museveni as he congratulates President William Ruto at his inauguration as Kenya's 5th president. Well, also in the new vision, Ruwero mother jailed for 18 months. A court has sentenced one Dorothy for as she pledged guilty. That is for 18 months in jail. Now, across the foreign news, Queen's coffin made 32 years ago. Now, details are on page 9. And Uganda farmers begin Ireland tour. That is also right there for you on page 4. Across crime, police busts fake driving license network. Details are on page 12 of the New Vision. Crossing over to the second page, they give you more on the 15,000 women as they get business skills. They also give you pictures right there of the launch at Hotel Africana. Now, today in history, back in 2008, school heads defy directive to close. That is an interesting right there for you. Get details in the New Vision.
The Daily Monitor Sports Onyango says, I could not miss Tony Maweje's last dance. Now, two matches have been lined up today on Saturday and on Saturday to celebrate former Cranes midfielder Tony Maweje's illustrious career that spanned over the last 20 years. He retired from football at the end of last season, and they're giving you Maweje's testimonial matches, so catch up on that. African Boxing Championships, Nkobeza Muchibi a win away to medal brackets. And looking at trio back in time for Man City clash, Borussia Dortmund have been boosted by the return of Karim Adeyemi, Daniel Mollen and Thorgan Hazard for their Champions League encounter with Manchester City today.
We're crossing over to the New Vision Sport as well. They give you a story of Maweje as he says his goodbye. Now, a lot of what he has been doing, and of course that is detailed for you right there, but also boxers are ready to slug it out. Now they give you a picture right there of bombers pictured shortly before departure to Mozambique capital Maputo. The team is under the coach of Lawrence Kadiango. Well, looks like they have a lot of expectations with boxing right there. Now, inside the sports, why Uganda needs facilities. They take you through some of the details on what is needed and why Uganda needs more facilities when it comes to sports. There are a lot of stories right there for you, including the rugby fans having to take that moment in Cape Town, and a lot more in the New Vision Sport.
And on to Kenya, the Daily Nation, Ruto takes over. Now, decision 2022 seems to be coming to the end as Uhuru exits. His successor pledges a new order. And we're looking at the man lifting that very powerful sword at the Moi International Sports Center that was at Kasarani, which did happen yesterday during his inauguration ceremony. Well, you need to get the full story of his takeover from Uhuru Kenyatta as the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya. Now, he did quite make a lot of promises regarding the changes that he's going to be coming up in different sectors. The judiciary, which he really seems to be quite passionate about. When it comes to subsidies, he also did make a mention of something in the education sector and also in the agriculture sector. So yes, get yourself the Daily Nation to know what he had to say, how he's going to be implementing some of these changes, and what it actually means to all the Kenyans out there who are quite excited to have him as their new president. However, earlier on today, we were having a discussion about the floods that have become rampant on our roads, and you did have quite some feedback coming in from some of you. And from Derek over here, you're actually saying that I think the main problem is by default. Majority of Ugandans think that is how the environment must look, since very few who have traveled and observed the good drainage system, smart cities, good roads of different countries. But the majority think their minds are locked in the systems of the third world countries. And you went on to say that about 70% of the people with that mentality think that is how the society must look, since they've grown up to that system. So the government and different bodies like NEMA, KCCA, UNRA, etc., together with the local leaders, must come up to sensitize the locals about the proper way of preserving the environment, and go on to teach them that their areas and city at large can be enhanced and elevated beyond that level. Thank you so much, Derek. Well, do let us know what you think about this very topic of discussion. We did have earlier on what could be the problem. Who do we apportion this blame? And again, what's the way forward? Can we get this problem. Well, speaking of floods on roads, clearly it's about the time when you also know the traffic flow. We also quite confident that some of the heavy traffic that we have been witnessing on most of these roads lately is because the floods. They have quite had a big role in making sure that they slow down the traffic flow on most of these roads. And today I want to focus on some parts in Makindye division, of course, connecting in all the way from Kumamboga to Chisasi as you're headed towards Kulambiro, and also some parts of Chebando as you're getting into, of course, the city center. For the biggest part of Komamboga Road, Waligo Road to be very specific, it's quite it's clear. The green is dominant, so it should be easy for you to navigate as you're getting into the city center. And moving on, going to Chisasi, using Bahai Road. Bahai Road is not problematic at all this morning. So you could use it to actually connect to Bokoto Chisasi Road or even Kulambiro Road. Speaking of Kulambiro Road, I could say that the very many traffic hotspots as clearly shown on this map. We do have some maroon spots over here showing you that the traffic is already heavy as it is as early as 7:46 right now. So it's going to be quite very hard for people to navigate that area. Coming in, of course, from their homes and getting into town, it's going to be quite a very long journey or long morning for them. And getting back to Bukoto Chisasi Road is not any different from what I just talked about, because we do see traffic on several spots on this same road. For other areas, it's already starting to build up. However, it progresses into becoming quite heavy. Even the detours you could decide to take, I must say that there is some traffic building up. We do have Sabagala Road where the situation is not any different. So you have to brace yourself. And still continuing all the way on Bukoto Chisasi Road, you do expect some heavy traffic over there, like indicated with these red marks and the orange spots. And by the way, this is not only cut out for the people getting into the city center, even those that who could be headed towards these areas, well, you will be inconvenienced in one way or another, so you need to plan accordingly. Well, crossing over to Ntinda Chisasi Road, it still goes all the way. We do have traffic quite building up here on Magambo Road, which could be a shortcut in this case, but in this other case again it could be a long cut because the traffic is ideally going to be delaying you as you're headed towards your destination. And joining onto Chira Road, well, it's very busy this morning. The reds are quite many. We do have very many oranges, so you're not skipping the traffic, I must say, this morning, especially if you're coming in from these areas. So brace yourself and refuel that car to make sure you're not inconvenienced anywhere. Well, that's it from the traffic updates this morning. I want to wish you a safe journey as you're trying to get to your places of work. But we also do have quite some news coming in from the climate and weather lady, Mollen, over here to give us quite some more information.
Well, thank you very much, Philomena. We continue to look at more coming in from weather-related disasters. And of course, most of these have been linked to climate change. And of course, one thing for sure is that right now we're seeing reports that are coming up to emphasize on the fact that the data is showing that these variations could be continuous. And we are headed towards the wrong direction as when it comes to putting more climate action. Now, the reports that we actually also read this morning from the UN Secretary General, that is Antonio Guterres, did actually indicate that they are concerned especially about the fact that scientists have been giving these warnings about the fact that we could be seeing more climate-related disasters, and it doesn't seem like governments are taking this serious, because the agreement that was made in 2015, that was across Paris, that came up with the Paris Agreement, was more to do with the fact that governments should be working right now to keep temperatures rise to well below 2 degrees, and specifically for 1.5 degrees. That is the target from the Paris Agreement. And then again, last year we had another pact, which is the Glasgow Pact coming in from the UK, where it was agreed that there should be phasing out of use of coal, and all that is aimed at reducing of greenhouse gas emissions across the world. Now, although scientists have continuously said, look, we are on a wrong line and we could be looking at very, very unprecedented levels when it comes to rising temperatures, there is need to make sure that we are keeping in check, especially emission of these greenhouse gases. And over again, we have talked about use of fossil fuels. Of course, now a lot of countries are getting ambitious goals into making sure that we have electric vehicles, making sure that we have solar power, and we're moving away from use of most of these coal and fossil fuels, but the effort is not enough. And this momentum is also building as we head towards COP27, because that is when we now expect to have, especially more on climate action regarding onto where are we. Since 2015, when we set out the Paris Agreement to keep temperatures below, are there targets that have been done in and at a level of a country, as Uganda, what have we done? And I know we have a delegation that is also meant to be doing that and updating the country. And just recently in the president's last speech, when we were talking about these climate-related issues, he also stressed the fact that we have done this to ourselves. We have been doing this harm to the environment, and now it is reacting. It's no wonder that we're seeing all these extreme weather events, just from the floods to the drought crisis. We're seeing wildfires across the world. We're seeing heat waves. All this is because we did interact with nature, and now it is just trying to fight back. The only way we can get out of that catastrophe or all these disasters is make sure that all we're doing right now is reduce emission of greenhouse gases. And one way to do that is avoid use of fossil fuels. We're talking about diesel, we're talking about all these fuels that we're using for our cars. And we can only do that if we have more electric cars, if we move towards clean energy, mostly solar-powered energy, wind energy, which is really affordable, especially now that we're looking at most of these developed countries also expected to make good on their pledges to support us financially as we move towards the clean energy. But talking of all these extreme weather events that are coming with climate change, we're also looking into the fact that recently we have been dealing with floods across the country, but also far and beyond, we are seeing more wildfires breaking up across California, and this is now covering a lot of areas. Now, this started earlier this week, but now, so far, we do know that 46 structures have been destroyed due to these fires, and of course this is also sending in and extending to areas of Nevada, that is across the US. But also more of what is coming through is that the blaze is the largest currently burning in California, and of course it began amidst extreme heat that was that started on September 60th, and of course that was in the forecast, but now it has grown to about 50,000 acres, and of course that continues to place the country at 18% of the containment, meaning that the rest of the percentage is actually unable to be contained, according to the fire officials down at the site. Now, so far, we have also looked at most of the homes that have been evacuated, and of course 5,800 structures are still being threatened, according to the report that came out yesterday. They're looking at more evacuations from this area of California, now extending to Nevada, meaning that most of these wildfires are still expected to be continuing. And of course this is pushing in day and night, and that means that also the firefighters on ground are being overwhelmed by most of these as they come through. And now you look at the fact that this is being fueled because there is extreme heat, and this comes in as temperatures continue to rise across the world. This is not the first area dealing with the heat waves. Europe has been dealing with heat waves almost for the first half of this year, and we could be looking at more of these events coming up across different areas within the world as we talk about a very frequent and of course intense rises in temperatures and most of these extreme weather events. Now, we also did see an alert coming through from China. That is when it comes to the typhoon that is expected to make landfall, and of course most of the areas have been highlighted on where this could be hitting, and this is just one to look out for, because most of these provinces in China actually have been having this kind of typhoons even before, and now we are looking at the intensity and frequency at which this is happening. Now, this is across the Zhejiang province, which is on high alert ahead of Typhoon Muifa, which is expected to make landfall this week. Now, that means that the eastern coast, the eastern sea side of China, they have had had to cancel hundreds of flights out of this area, also cancelling most of the activities across the sea, including boats over the area, as this typhoon is expected to bring in a lot of heavy storms and winds, which is why they are going on to even advise for evacuation across the area, especially the eastern China Sea. And of course, this has also forced the cancellation of all those flights that were expected for the busy ports over there. And of course, they're also saying that this is one of the areas that is almost named as the financial hub of Shanghai. So meaning that a lot of activities are going to be disrupted because of this kind of extreme weather event, and they could be looking at much more of the days covering this typhoon, as it is expected to also come in with very strong winds. That means they could be looking at destruction of property. They could be looking at also most of these boats at the port being swept away, and so far they are making plans to evacuate and put away some of these facilities if they can be moved. But so far what we do know is the red alert has been issued, especially when it comes to flights across the eastern sea of China in the Zhejiang province right there. And away from that, we also want to take a look at the situation back home here and take a look at the satellites, what they're showing us for this morning. We do know that at least much of last evening we were dealing with rainy conditions. It looks like that system did continue into the night across several places, and that has been the trend lately. We look at those evening showers starting off right in the afternoon, and that goes on into the evening, even crossing over into the night, and most of that is across the southern sector of the country. But this morning we continue to see most of those rainy conditions starting up across the island of Lake Victoria. That is where we are seeing those yellow to green colors. That is the rainy system indicating rains over there, still to the southern part of Lake Victoria, and that will be affecting the island of Kalangala. And later this morning, this could also be crossing over into the western side of Lake Victoria. We're also looking at most of those systems starting to develop across southwestern Uganda, where there are those blue colors right there across Mbarara. We have a little bit of rains coming through even as we speak, mostly cloudy weather, and that will be developing into rainy conditions headed towards Kabale Highlands as well. Fort Portal, you can expect to have those rains throughout your morning for several places. That includes areas of Bundibujo as well. We're also starting to see those cloudy systems developing across eastern Uganda. That takes in areas of Soroti as well, across Mbale. We could be looking at more wet weather conditions for you this morning, but also not forgetting that most of these systems that are starting to develop across Lake Victoria could also be heading towards the central parts of Lake Victoria Basin. That might bring in rains across areas of Kampala, Wakiso, and Entebbe, and that is later as the day progresses. But for now, we're seeing mostly in terms of cloudy and sunny conditions across much of Uganda. Northern Uganda right there starting off with quite sunny skies, and also for the Karamoja region we're starting off with quite some sunny skies as well. We will be seeing mostly development of rainy conditions later as the day progresses. But we'll go ahead and take a look at the forecast, and that is coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority, and also look at those numbers as we talk about the weather for today. Now, most of that is towards especially the western side of the country, where we'll be having mostly rainy conditions. But looking at the central part of northern Uganda, we're starting off with a mix of clouds and sunshine, and of course that will be starting off with a warm 27 degrees centigrade. Now we look at the eastern side of Central, where we have Ruero, Wobbly, Zibururi, Nakaseke. Quite some sunny weather expected for this morning. We're already seeing those clear skies. That will be starting off with a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade. But again, in the afternoon, we could be seeing rains over that area. Now we look at the eastern side of Uganda, where we have Soroti, Katakwi, Amuria, and Kumi. We're also starting off with quite some sunny skies and pleasant 26 degrees centigrade. Also, that area is expected to develop rainy conditions later in the afternoon. Now, the eastern side of Lake Victoria, where we have Tororo, Busia, Iganga, and Jinja, we're forecasting isolated showers. Those will be across several places, already having cloudy conditions, and those will be bringing in rains, starting off with a cool 25 degrees. Now we look at the western side of Lake Victoria, where we have Masaka, Kalisizo, Sembabule, and Rakai. We're forecasting rainy conditions for you this morning. We're already having some of that crossing over even as we speak, and that is going to start off with a cool 24 degrees centigrade. That system will again reappear in the afternoon, making it quite a rainy day for you right there. Now, the central part of Lake Victoria, where we have Kampala, Entebbe, Mukono and Wakiso, we are forecasting rainy conditions. Also, those will be coming in later as the morning progresses, crossing over into the afternoon. We do expect that to start off with 25, quite a cool morning for you. And of course, most of those rains will also be crossing over into the afternoon, especially the western sector of the country. We do expect those continuous rains for you, and most of these conditions will also be developing across most areas within the country. That is as we head towards the afternoon. Well, that is it in terms of weather for this morning. My name is Mollen, Kenyena. I want to wish you a wonderful morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
You can only become a leader when there are problems.
Behind the headlines.
So what are we deliberating?
Whether rats from another country can be, somebody must be there to hold everybody accountable.
Every Wednesday at 10 p.m.
First of all, we as elites of Uganda we have made Museveni the issue. I can tell Museveni is not the problem of Uganda. The problems of Uganda are much deeper. We can change the next 20 presidents and we'll still be this roundabout.
Was brought to you by
simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN cupboard. That's super easy.
Forget last season. Forget the oohs and ahs. Forget every moment that stole the show, because the real show is here on GoTV. It's the new season. It's action-packed and it's going to be non-stop football. With over 1,000 games from more than 7 leagues and cup competitions plus a World Cup. Make sure you get the best seat in the house this new football season. Get a GoCoder with 1 month of GoTV value for only 25,000 Uganda shillings and enjoy non-stop football. GoTV Uganda. Love it.
A logical, deeper conversation.
How many teachers in Uganda did you consult? But there's a mistake we are making.
Which is good.
Which is good.
Which is good.
Which is good.
We went to this school, we ran it to Western, we ran it to Northern, then you come.
Isn't that an achievement?
Objective and non-partisan.
Honorable Minister, there were a number of points. I want to start with you.
Straight from the hearts of open-minded men and women.
Money tends to move faster at night. So when people are not counting,
don't take it for granted.
Candid and authentic.
Because Uganda is not Thailand.
That's not correct, and we should stop that kind of mentality. So what I'm saying
that's
is
a trick question. Don't answer.
I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that.
Tell him you speak low.
I think that's where we are beginning to have a problem.
I think what is going to kill the parish model are all the misconceptions on how it's supposed to run.
I know that the Prime Minister is listening.
Behind the headlines.
Charles, let us agree. We liberalized the economy.
We are several nations put it together.
Why don't you appreciate that?
What if it fails? I'm happy and he's a good lawyer because he's not in power. The parish development committee is functional. It is there. That there is a parish chief that the beneficiaries do exist.
So we look at expenditure. We don't look at revenue. And that is the challenge we are giving them from Minister of Finance.
Your fountain of new knowledge, flowing into the mass body of knowledge.
First get the knowledge of Bukedia, how they want to be modernized.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
You return money to the treasury, which is meant for the people.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
The quest, giver of life, Alpha without Omega. I am Africa.
Hail to Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, a land with the world's most beautiful, captivating features. Hills, mountains and valleys, the enigmatic animal species in the wild. a land where Africa is condensed into one small country with authentic endowment of nature and perfect safari. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, is without the crowds with abundant primates, wildlife and stunning scenery. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, takes you beyond the guidebooks, the known features, and gives you the insights unmatched. Keep it UBC TV, where we inspire Uganda with authentic beauty and nature of our motherland.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
A lovely morning to you once again, and thank you for being with us here on Good Morning Uganda UBC TV. It is a fairly cold morning, so in case you're coming to town, carry something to keep you warm. If you have infants and they are not of school going, make sure if you're leaving home, they're in safe hands, they are warm enough and well protected. I'm Kirabo, Nyonyintono. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda. Now, this morning we are going to be handling something that has become a problem due to weather. We know we have two rain seasons in Uganda, the March to May, then the August to December, and currently we are experiencing our August to December, the last rain season of the year. And experts like Mollen, Kenyena have told us from the Meteorology Department that we are going to expect rainfall above normal. Now, what that means is we are going to expect more rain than we usually receive in particular parts of this country. And this has resulted to flooding in Kampala, but when we look at, that is the mountain Elgon and Rwenzori, here we are seeing floods, lives are being lost. We saw the 16 that perished. So this morning, I have a very interesting person, and I guarantee you're going to enjoy this discussion. That is former RDC Burambuli, that is Nabende Wamoto, the man who was at the forefront of this when we saw the famous, that is mudslides that consumed a lot of lives. By then he was an RDC, and there was so much that happened as he was watching. Now, on Monday, Cabinet passed and approved compensation plan that is voluntary. This is what we are going to be discussing, among others. Wamoto. Yes, you're most welcome to Kampala. You're most welcome to our studios.
Thank you, Robert Nyonyintono.
How was your journey to here? Because we last talked to you when you were in the village.
Yeah, the last time we spoke, I was in Mbale. That was the time when we had the waters, the flash floods that claimed a lot of life. And you remember that time we hinted, and we want to say again, that this time it covered all Uganda, because the victims were actually distributed. There are some people that were buried in Masaka, that there were some people who were buried, I think, in Buganda here, in this central Kampala. So which means the disaster is now no longer a local matter. It has become national, because you remember we said it was a new normal. First of all, now it was moving from the mountains coming down to the city. Mbale city. So you see, in a city we expect the whole nation to be inhabited there. So you asked me how I came well. There was a lot of rain, Robert, and the viewers. It's a lot of rain, especially where I live in Mbale district, this time, not in Mbale city. Yeah. But they share the gravity, they share the impact. Because once the waters in Mbale district are over flooded, then they pour into the city. As we spoke the other day, that is a problem of, because we cannot say we shall relocate people in Mbale city. You see that, Robert? Even if cabinet passes a decision that people are now going to voluntarily relocate, that plan cannot work for the city inhabitants, which means we must have other methods of clearing the mess in the cities, just like they are clearing the mess in Bwaise. Originally, Bwaise was a dangerous place, but now I think the drainage system is being...
Before you go any further, paint us a picture of what is happening in these areas of Mbale, Bulambuli, and of course, when you cross over, because where we are seeing people dying. We recently saw government compensating some of the families, 5 million per person they lost. And what exactly is happening?
I will correct one word, Robert, you have used. The president was very specific. It wasn't compensation, because that can annoy people.
Aiding, yes.
Aiding in barrier.
Thanks for the correction.
Yes. The situation now is, I've just received a message, Robert, while I was coming in. It's a mountainous area in Bulambuli. Bulambuli is partitioned into lower and upper. Now, upper is swept away, and then the lower part is flooded. So you can see the problem there. The upper part is swept away, and then it goes down. So both places are bad. So a place called Buluganya sub-county has lost almost all the crops and some houses. And some people died there. I'm not sure how many this week, actually this week. If it was not Sunday, it should have been Monday. While the government was making arrangements basing on the problems that took place in Kasese, this side, people are also dying. But this time the number was minimal. It should have been about 3 or 4 people in the whole Mount Elgon region. So the rains are still heavy, and the rains have been prophesied to continue up, I think, to either the end of this month or mid next month. So the picture is that we cannot know what is going to happen the next minute.
Now that brings me to government's response into this situation. Of course, we know most of the times when this happens, government carries out what I want to call a surgical operation. They respond to the problem. We rush food, we rush blankets to keep these people warm, we rush some temporary shelters as well, but this is not sustainable. It's not sustainable because it keeps on happening. Government, I remember when we had floods, and I remember there was a committee that was set up there, chaired by, I think, General Moses Ali, of which you gave a lot of information. I saw you active, but at the end of the day, I don't think the best was done. So let's look at government response. Because we need permanent solutions. We can't continue. We may not have these funds one time. Who knows? And what will that then mean?
Don't say one time, Robert. Uganda must know that the economy is on a bed sick, it's a sick bed. We can't say we have money, even now. Because if we had money, people would be fed with food. Now we cannot fail to feed people in Karamoja and other regions, including in many places, even in Kampala. People are not living a very wonderful life. So we cannot say we are going to add even all these fire brigade systems of disaster every now and then. Because now, at the time when I was growing up, I told you that these landslides and floods in Bugisu would take actually 10 years to recur. 10 years, or at least more than 10. This time it is every year, sometimes even twice a year. So you said it well. Why should we act like fire brigade? Because at least fires come by accident. This time now I think we can predetermine that there is something which is now occurring so frequently, and we must find a remedy to it. You mentioned General Moses Ali. I always ask and say, what happens to our people? If you have a report somewhere, if you gave out the original and action was not taken, can't you surely one day in cabinet raise your photocopy and say, you look, men and women, honorable men and women in cabinet, Your Excellency, the chairman, we took some action we don't need to go backward. I have the information here. Maybe what I presented could have been misplaced, but this is the information. We agreed to do this. General Moses Ali is still in the cabinet. By the way, I'm sure he's the deputy head of government business in parliament, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So, if cabinet cannot act on this report, why can't we present it to parliament? Because parliament, you remember, has talked about the disaster so many times. You remember it was very hot before the Nyonyintono thing came about, the earlier week. They were talking about disaster in Kasese. Brown is there, he knows. Could be his relatives are dead now, you cannot know. I came from Mbale in the night. You cannot know who are there and who are not there. So, and I'm not a government. In Kiswahili say, the Waswahili say, serikali haishindwi. It is a normal thing that governments cannot be defeated. So, we must find a remedy today. But I also want to become a little, because we have been told that the government, through the government spokesperson, Honorable Baryomonsi, yesterday confirmed that the government has now made a decision in the cabinet, which means it has to be taken to parliament, that now there shall be voluntary relocation. And this is what we have been advocating here, that people can be given money, just as a road passes through Robert Nyonyintono's land. We don't relocate Robert, we give him the money. Robert can squander the money, but for us we have taken the land. We have put our road there. He cannot go back and dig on it. So the voluntary relocation should actually now start in full gear. That we are going to go to Kasese and tell people, this sub-county, that sub-county, that sub-county is not habitable. Our people must move. But now what we are telling you is that you move on your own. Go and look for land elsewhere. You can come to Robert in Kampala. Robert, give me some of your land. I want to move away from Bugisu. And Robert, who loves me, will not want me to die in Bugisu. Except that he will give me maybe a few terms and conditions and say, Brother Wamoto, I love you, yes. But my land, I can't give you for free, all of it. I will give you land equivalent of 20 million an acre, but you will give me an emergence of 5 million so that I can also explain it to my family, and the rest you will pay as you settle down. All right? Then the government will top up the money for me to put up a house, because I cannot move my whole family to Robert's house. Robert also has his own house, his family. So Robert can give me an emergency habitation to live there as I put up habitation facilities for my own self and my family. So this system, if government is very serious this time, we appreciate. And I'm told the chairman was the president. And I know the president, if he returned from Kenya, he must be watching. Mr. President, that is what we have been proposing.
Well, Wamoto, that sounds good news, because it's one of the things that you as a person has been advocating for, but also many, and of course when you had that report where you had 3 alternatives, government constructing, then people being moved to mid-young developing cities within the same region, or giving them money and they go. But there's been always an argument that you people, you're too stubborn. At one point, you talk about having cultural attachments to these areas, they're your ancestral grounds, that's where you're going to be buried. You've become a problem to government yourselves, because when such interventions, you seem very hard, and people were looking, and some government officials are proposing forceful eviction, deploy, remove. But they say these people continue doing that, and then where do we have the trust that when people are given money, they will eventually move with the people like you who are good speakers, have very good in terms of convincing and politics. People are compensated. We've seen this with government on various occasions. People are given money to leave these places. Then after a time, you see others While these were living, they sold this land to others. And then government goes through its unending circle. Maybe that is why initially, much as you've forwarded the report you're talking about, government chose to construct houses and then tell people to go to these houses, which you also didn't respond to very well.
I grew up in Kenya, went to school in Kenya, went to college in Kenya. I know a lot of Kiswahili. I actually was examined, and I'm going to teach Kiswahili. I said, serikali haishindikani. Government must not be defeated. If a government says we are defeated, then government must give up. We get another one. You understand? Now, I am not a government. Robert, you are not a government. One day you said, and you have just reframed that statement, that you people are stubborn. Let me tell you, Robert, that statement almost cost one minister problem in Bali. People almost finished him. You cannot call people stubborn when they are preparing to bury. When you tell them stubborn, you want them to go to you. Is it your house? You want them to move and go where?
Is that a bitter truth of it?
Now, it is not. I come from Bugishu. Not that. Even my brothers who are seated there, and those who are viewing, I come from Bududa, the most dangerous district in Bududa. I come from Bududa, and no one in Bududa has ever expressed stubbornness. I talk to the people. Let them give me a mission to go and tell the people to move out of Bududa, those who are in dangerous places. Let them ask them to give me that task, and let them give me a timeline. If I fail, they can cut off my hand. You see, people want to have escape statements. Robert, there is nobody who can be stubborn when they know they are going to die the next minute. The only problem we have is that some in the government want to use this statement in order for them to escape responsibility. You understand? Because give me 1 month to tell the people of Duda to move away. Give Brown 1 month to tell the people of Rwenzori to move away. But you must give us a way forward. They move away and go where? Have you understood? We tell them to move, and then they go where? These people, some of these people are illiterates, yes? They didn't go to school. But they will ask you that question. This is an ordinary question. Gwe muzei oyagala tuve wano tugenda wa? The Jews, when they were in Egypt, God told them, move out. And they were told to move with Moses as their leader.
To the promised land.
To the promised land. But when they were on their way, like you have said, some of them wanted to be stubborn because they were hungry. There was no food. So they asked their leader, you man, you brought us from slavery, yes? It is true we were doing leja there. But we were having food.
You're not going to die in the way. Did you bring us
to
kill us in the desert?
You said you are going to take us to a good place. Now, where is the good place? Now, those questions are asked not with educated people. They are asked with all the ordinary citizens.
Yes.
Because when my child, my girl, my last born, when she's hungry, she comes to me. When I'm pretending and I'm sleepy, because I have no money to buy food for her. And then she says, Daddy, where was it? Daddy, are you sleepy? Then I pretend to say, yes, I'm sleepy. She comes and taps me. She wants me to rise up. I'm the only one who can save her. So I am the government in my home. In Uganda, this Uganda is called a home. Now this home, the chief parent, is called General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Now the others are altar boys and altar girls. For him, he called them fishermen. What do fishermen do?
Well, they get fish.
You have answered well. Fishermen go to the waters and find food, which is called fish. So what are the fishermen of the president doing?
Well, Wamoto, that well said. Of course, we know, rightly you said, government has a role to play.
Yes.
But let's also understand, and we are happy that Cabinet passed that decision.
Yes.
We hope it sees the light of day
Yes.
from Parliament and it's fully implemented. But let's go back to individual responsibility. Your cultural leaders, you local leaders, area leaders. One time I have a friend called Wamoto Nabende.
Yes.
He stays in Bulambuli.
Yes.
And one time I gave him a call and he was digging on the lake shores.
Yes.
And I asked this friend of mine, Wamoto, where are you? I'm digging, my garden is on the lake shores. Unfortunately, it's the man seated in the studios today.
Yes.
But now, you're part of the problem. You have responsibilities. You're the people who go and cultivate on these mountain tops. Then you cry for government.
I could be part of the problem, Robert. I will always insist on what I have said 2 times.
You're the people who put yourselves in harm's way in one or the other.
I want to say this the 3rd time. Serikali haishindiki. Government will never be defeated. Give me the people. Give them to me. And tell them to move out. You see, General Aronda, the late General Aronda was my friend. He would even drive a convoy and come and see me in Bulambuli. People would be shocked for a general to come and visit a small man, 54 kilograms. But he told me, Wamoto, don't talk about government. Government is a babysitter. Talk about the state. You know the state. Now, that is why we say the president of Uganda is the head of government and also the head of state. It's a two-pronged system.
You're exonerating yourself and your responsibility to Wamoto.
No.
And the community is there.
I'm going to answer the question, but I have answered it to the ordinary Ugandan who is seeing. General Aronda, when he told me that, I asked him, General, you're a general. I'm not a general. What do you mean? He said, government is a babysitter. You know what a babysitter is?
Yeah.
Oh, you see the Karuru,
or you see the Karuru,
or you see the Karuru is coming, you know, 2016, you see. Oh, you see politicians, when the campaign is start, they even bend and the people climb on their backs. That is babysitting. Now, we are talking about the state, Robert, Nyonyintono. If people are in the wetlands, let the government not simply talk. Let the government use the state, the component of the state. This is our wetland. Why are you here? Move out of this wetland. You understand? Robert, you can't dig in Buluganya. We are not going to allow you dig in this mountain. We are not going to allow the people of Kasese to go up on Mount Rwenzori. We have a mountain division in Kasese. That is called a state. You understand? We have division 3 in Moroto, which goes up to Mount Elgon. You understand? How can people defeat government? Tell me that. How did government defeat Kony, who had guns? Don't look at me, Robert. I'm asking these questions because I want government to know that the people who are in trouble, including myself, are not stubborn. I have told you this today. And I want to tell you this again, Robert, when you call me. There is no dying person who can be stubborn. I don't know whether it happens in Uganda. Have you ever seen a stubborn man? Even General Kasirye Gwanga, who was my best friend also, very stubborn. Very, very stubborn. But when he was dying, he was humbled. Now we are talking about a general who died because of sickness. But now we are making reference to the stubborn friend of yours called Nabende Wamoto, whom you called and found Nabende Wamoto on the shore, on the banks of a river, is digging. Now you, Robert Kirabo, leave your man in Nabende Wamoto who is in the studio today, but there is a friend of Nabende Wamoto who died. You would have now made reference to the men and the women in the state and tell them, look, there is a friend of mine called Nabende Wamoto. This friend of mine, surely, he digs on the riverside. He will die. I have advised, he has not accepted. Now, you will have told the men and the women who are in government who are babysitters. But the men and the women who are babysitters also have a component called the state.
Well, Navende, this is a very interesting discussion. I told you this is a very interesting character. Whenever I host him, there is so much that is interesting about him, but time is not so much on my side. Let me have your final remarks. And in this, I hope you mentioned personal responsibility. People putting themselves in harm's way is something I believe we shouldn't tolerate, much as government has what to do. Let me have your parting shot.
Do I have my 2 hands?
Yeah.
What did I say a few minutes ago?
If they give you this mission and you fail,
let them cut off one of my hands.
Okay.
All right? Mm-hmm. As we speak now, I have told you. I have a message on my phone here. It's because you instructed, and I'm a good student. I switch on my phone. I switch off my phone when I'm here. Now, someone sent a message when you called me yesterday. I was also coming to UBC radio, Butembo. So from Butembo, when I called you, I said, I'm confirming, I'm on my way coming. Now, someone sent me a message from Bugishu saying, Mzee, you might not travel back and find all the people you left alive. Because there is rain there. There is rain in Bududa, there is rain in Bulambuli, there is rain in Kampala. And by the way, let me say this, because God is almost helping us. We that Robert Nyonyintono has been referring to as stubborn people. I heard of floods in Kaliro. Did you hear also?
Yes.
Are they stubborn?
I want your concluding remarks.
They must find remedy to the people of Uganda. And Uganda is under the stewardship of one 4-star general, my friend, my old brother, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. If the fishermen cannot move to look for fish for us, find others. Nyonyintono is here, it's a team here. There could be some people who know the tears of the people who are perishing in disasters, and they can move mountains because they know it. Have I not parted? This is what you want.
Thank you so much, former RDC Bulambuli, Navende Wamota, a very interesting character there. We hope the authorities have listened and they'll take action to save the lives of our brothers and sisters that are perishing in these floods. Ruben is ready, and I see him with a guest. I don't know how many stars I'm seeing there, but well decorated. He will be joining us in the sports segment there. Have a lovely day. God bless you. Stay safe. Don't move when it's heavily raining. See you tomorrow.
This is Good Morning Uganda.